Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The date is December 5th, 2022. The time is now 7 o'clock p.m. Before we start this evening's regularly scheduled City Council meeting, we do have a public hearing on two items. One is a charter resolution, the other is an ordinance. The first one being a public hearing on charter resolution number 292 concerning annexation of 1633 Pulaski Highway. Madam Secretary, could you please read the header into the record before I call on the audience in general to speak?
Yes. A resolution by the Mayor and City Council of Havre de Grace, Maryland, adopted pursuant to the authority of the Maryland Constitution, Article 11-E, and the provisions of the Annotated Code of Maryland, Local Government Article, Subtitle 3, Amendment or Repeal of Charter and Subtitle 4, Annexation authorizing the legislative body of a municipality to annex property, extending the boundaries of the municipality by resolution to amend the city charter, specifically Appendix A of the Havre de Grace Charter, by adding subsection A38, the second 2022 addition to the city boundaries, along with the legal description of the acres of land which will enlarge the boundaries of the city of Havre de Grace to include 1633 Pulaski Highway, known consisting of a total of 0.694 acres more or less.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. At this time, I would like to, I don't have any pre-filled out forms, I believe, to speak on this particular public hearing item, but is there anybody in the audience who wishes to speak on Charter Resolution 292 concerning annexation of 1633 Pulaski Highway? Any comments from the council? Okay. With no public comment or comments from the council, I will close the public hearing on Charter Resolution 292. The time is 7:03 p.m. We're going to go to the second item on this evening's public hearing. This is going to be for Ordinance 1091 concerning amending City Code 70, which deals with fees. Madam Secretary, could you also please read this ordinance header into the record?
Yes. An ordinance by the Mayor and City Council of Havre de Grace, Maryland, adopted pursuant to the authority of Article 11-E of the Maryland Constitution, the Local Government Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland, and Sections 33 and 34 of the Havre de Grace City Charter, to amend City Codes 70, fees, by repealing and reenacting Ordinance Number 850, Ordinance Number 856, Ordinance Number 884, Ordinance Number 986, to update the definitions and general schedule of fees charged by the city for various permits, licenses, and other services thereunder.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. I will call on the audience at large, but I do have a couple forms that were filled out by citizens, and I will call on those citizens first. I'd like to call forward Carrie Parsons. Good evening, Mrs. Parsons. May we please have your name and address for the record?
It's Carrie Parsons, 840 Otsego Street here in Havre de Grace, Mayor.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. City Council, citizens at large and at home. I actually have two that I was going to comment on. I will start with Ordinance 1091. On page 4, where it goes into executive use, starting at line number 172. And I'm just hoping you can kind of clarify this a little for me, please. This is the exclusive use. It says no new exclusive use leases will be granted after the date of this ordinance unless City Council passes an ordinance expressly stating that the subject property is no longer needed for a public purpose and that the city will enter into a boundary line agreement with the property owner for a price equal to the taxable amount attributed to the square footage of such property or fair market value, whichever is greater. It mentions leases with a transition to boundary line agreement. In this document, and also from within all of our chapters, I was unable to find a definition for boundary line agreement. And I was wondering if you could potentially educate me a little bit, just so we can avoid some confusion, or potentially maybe get it listed in there as a definition?
Yeah, I think for the purposes of what we're trying to do, for the property that would be wanting to have more property by adding a fence in the city right-of-way, then a new survey would then be required, which would give the boundary markers of that. So you'd have that piece of property then would have a new, and a boundary line agreement or a boundary line survey is pretty common within the, the titling world, and also when we go to the county and submit the documentation for, what's the word I'm looking for? No, it's not, yeah, so when we're retitling the property from what it was to what it would be, and we're going to add the meets and bounds on a new boundary line. So we'd have a complete new plat as we go, recordation, as we go and record the new property to the county. That will then capture that into the tax base.
Okay.
Yeah.
On page 7, 70-5, schedule, line number 287, under residential, new construction, it's listed hotel, motel, assisted living, rooming house, and similar type uses. I believe that those are commercial, am I? Page 7, 70-5, fee schedule, starting at line number 287. Hotel, motel, assisted living, rooming house, and similar types. And could you correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't these items listed technically commercial properties or entities? By using the words. To me, it does not seem that they're residential.
Yeah, I would agree. Those would probably need to be carved out into either a separate section or into the commercial side.
Thank you. And then, property maintenance inspection fee, and it's, I believe, on page 10. I wasn't, again, I was not able to find a clear definition inside our ordinances as to what this meant. If you could educate me, please.
I can help out with that one. From we have the property maintenance code that has been adopted as part of our city code, and from time to time, our code enforcement officer will have to go to different properties to check the interior of a property, for instance. So if we had a tenant call and say that there were some issues in the house that made it not livable, we could go and check that, and then we would have to come back for a reinspection. So in those cases, we would charge an inspection fee for the code enforcement person's time.
Okay. And then finally, it appears throughout the fee schedule that you're giving me the choice to pay either by square foot or a minimum. So in the earlier sections of the fee schedule, it does say, 25 cents per square foot or a minimum of $4.50. Are we giving everybody a choice, or is it who's going to set the standard? One, the other, or is it going to be both?
I can take that. So I think what the intent here is, Ms. Parsons, is if there's if it's an amount of square footage that's, let's say it's 25 cents per square foot or $250 minimum. If the 25 cents per square foot is less than the $250, the fee is $250. If it's over the $250, 50, then it would be, whatever the 25 cents per square foot would be.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Yeah. So it's either or, whatever, and I think in some cases it actually says whichever is the most or whichever is the least.
I'm still a little confused.
The minimum would be the least. So if you apply for any of those permits, you'd pay the minimum, no matter what. But then if your square footage
Is over.
totals went above the minimum, then you would pay that extra amount. So if you apply for, let me just, as a quick example here, if you applied for an addition, including a sunroom, it'd be 12 cents per square foot. So if you had a 1 square foot sunroom, I don't know why you would ever do that, but if you had a 1 square foot sunroom, you'd pay $350. If you had a 100 square foot sunroom, it'd be 120, but since the minimum's $350, you'd pay $350. So you would always pay $350. Now, if you had a 400 square foot addition and that went above $350, then you would pay the amount above $350. So for an addition, you'd always pay $350. A screen room, you'd always pay $100. Open deck, with or without a roof, you'd always pay $75. But then if the square footage went above that minimum, then you would pay the higher amount.
The higher. And that would also pertain to, say, renovations.
Correct.
So if you have one renovation and say you find external damage, if you paid the flat minimum and you had to do an amendment to your renovation, you would then go into the next tier?
I mean, it would be by square footage. So this one, I hope is easy. So it's 10 cents a square foot. So if it was 700 and if it was more than 750 square feet, then you'd pay over 750 square foot. If you built it and you had to have multiple inspections, I don't think that would make a difference. But I'm not sure. The county does our building inspections, so there may be fees if you have multiple inspections, you need them to come out. But that would be our initial fee.
Your initial fee?
So yeah, if it was a 750 square foot addition, alteration, or repair, or less, you'd still pay $75. If it was 751 square feet or larger, then you would pay $751 or more, or $75 or more.
Okay.
And if I may on that, so I think your question was, so if you came in with a permit and you were under the de minimis, you're still going to pay the $350 or whatever it happens to be, but then you change your building plan and you want to expand it to a larger footprint. If the footprint took you over the minimum, then you would pay the additional as well.
Yeah, and I was just throwing hypotheticals because we ran into it, like with almost every old home here. You find those hidden things, and one thing leads to another. The only other thing that I do have is I do wish to thank Councilmember Boyer. Thank you very kindly. It's a very long, I think it's overdue. I do appreciate you putting the resolution to adopt the transportation priorities and policies. Thank you. Hopefully that will ease and we'll get some attention that is well deserved for our streets, especially the malfunction area. Thanks.
Thank you. I call forward Mr. Joe Kokendorfer. Joe?
Citizens' comments.
Oh, you sent comment. Oh, okay, not speaking. Okay, all right, gotcha. Comments.
You don't know exactly what you want.
On 1091.
Okay, all right. Okay, let's see here. That's all the pre-filled out forms I have on the on ordinance 1091. I will call on anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on 1091. Sir. Good evening and welcome, sir. May we please have your name and address?
Charles Heiner, 356 Congress Avenue.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for all the hard work that went into this, and I understand the need to put the policy forward for what the ordinance is for. I think there needs to be a better understanding on, and a question for Steve maybe, or for anyone, is When does that apply? Is it from here forward? Is it 1982 forward, or is it?
Yeah, so in the ordinance, so the goal at this moment with us updating the fee schedule, beside the fees being very outdated and the Star Center and some other things, was to look at the leases in general, the lease of city property, the right-of-ways in which the city owns that are really the property of the citizens of Havre de Grace. And in those leases, make sure that there is some consideration that the council imposes upon anyone that wants to encroach on the city right-of-way, and have some sort of standardized format, whether that's going to be a per square foot, if it's a certain value we come up with, if it's a calculus that we use for the based on the assessed value, whatever it happens to be. But there has to be some consideration that has to be made. So that would be for us moving forward. The way that the definitions in the ordinance for leases speaks to any of these encroachments that's happened prior to zoning. Pre-1982, I think, was the date.
Yeah, correct.
So pre-1982, it's sort of like
There was no zoning,
yeah,
Steve.
there was no zoning, yeah, it's
Right,
pre-zoning. So it was sort of like, so what do you do? Well, there's not a whole lot you can do.
Right.
And you kind of move forward with that. And then the things from today moving backward then would be, start to capture those. Some of those will cycle in themselves because the city attorney over the last, in her tenure, we have taken the leases and we've structured them in a much shorter time frame. So the 49-year deals, the 39-year deals, now we're down to, I think, primarily 5, some 10. So those will sort of come in and start catching as catch can. So hopefully between these, the introduction of this, we've set up 4 different readings, which is very unusual for an ordinance.
And that was going to be my next thing.
Yeah, so because we knew this was, it was a long time coming, and there's going to be a lot of discussion points, which is a good thing. And I mentioned at the last council meeting, council should, if I was on council, I would want to have a couple work sessions to have some discussions where the public would be involved, where the council could discuss it amongst themselves to kind of get this, kind of massage it to where we should be. It's not meant to be a hardship on anybody. However, with that said, it's the fiduciary responsibility of the mayor and city council not to give the city's property away. And there's got to be some consideration for those that are going to use that property exclusively for their own interest and not allow the public to be able to use that property. So the calculus in which you come up with it is where the council really needs to kind of iron that out and get that figured out.
Well, and I think that the whole point, thank you, the whole point of the whole thing is a dialogue and more of an understanding. So don't rush it on us. We know what needs to be done. Let us understand it, especially for the things from 82 to now, how that's going to come, how it's going to happen, because it's all over the city. I've only been here 30 years, and I know what I've been involved with, so I can only imagine what's going on with it. So.
Yeah, and I appreciate your comments and the fact that you are in the real estate business. You've seen a lot of these title issues that come up with some of these properties of how they
And all the right-of-ways with the city and the porches and all that stuff.
And we all have been around a long time to see the paper streets, the non-paper streets. Some people are encroached, some have not. Over the years, this isn't this council's fault or this administration. This is just a culmination of years of it piling on, and under the express powers of the mayor and city council, we've really started looking at that more diligently, and that there's a need to have consideration for city property that's being used exclusively. So that's where we are at this point. I think there's just been a couple side conversations I've had with several of the council members, and I think what I've heard so far, I think it's going to be a good process of kind of carving out, this piece of it and kind of getting this calculus of how we're going to charge, and then how we're going to decide on how we move from this point back to 82. And those that are cycled through, like I said, they'll come on their own. There's going to be others that are probably out there that have encroached with no permit at all, that we'd have to address
Doesn't happen here.
separately. But I think, I know I had a conversation with the council president and council member Robertson, and it was very positive. I think they have a pretty good game plan of what they want to do.
Well, I appreciate that. I just wanted to make the point, and appreciate that, especially appreciate that, because that's the process of government. And so as we go forward, more people are going to want to know about that and weigh into it. But you'll get what you need to do, because I've been around long enough to understand it's a long time coming. So good for you guys. I'll be back. I'll be involved.
Thank you, Mr. Heiner. Council President?
So, Mr. Heiner, just right now, tentatively, like right after Christmas, we're going to have at least 2 work sessions and then another public hearing on an off night. And then probably in February, we'll have the second reading. But we want to have plenty of opportunity for the citizens to voice their opinion and come in and, hear what we have to say and see what we can do to get this moving forward and try to figure out the best way to move forward.
Okay, sounds
Right.
great. And I'll put something in writing as we go along, and I'll copy you all, so I'll follow it.
Thank you. Sir? Good evening. Welcome. May we please have your name and address for the record?
Kirk Smith, 840 Otsego Avenue, Havre, Grace, Maryland, 21078. Good evening, everybody.
Welcome, Mr.
I wasn't
Smith.
actually going to speak, but Mr. Gambatori and somebody else made a couple comments, and it had me thinking that somebody mentioned paper roads, and then Mr. Gambatori mentioned abandoned roadways, and there is encroachment. I mean, I can look out the back where we're building garden beds and paths out towards where the city did that miraculous job so that it doesn't flood out back of the place on a part of Lily Run. And I know because when you guys first started bringing up right-of-ways, and I got very curious as to the new place I was going to live, and where the right-of-ways were and how close it came up to the porch. Mr. Graham-Vittoria was saying that city right-of-way comes right up to his house. And so I looked up all of the things and found out some interesting stuff. There's still a paper road, or an abandoned road anyways, on Warren Street, correct?
It's not abandoned, that's a paper street.
Because it looked like it was finished a long time ago.
Warren Street was finished on the 700 block and the 900 block, but never connected in the 800 block, primarily because of the floodplain.
Okay. So it's still a paper road.
That's what we refer to them as paper streets, yes, that's
How
correct.
many paper streets does the city have?
There's,
I remember Councilmember Hitchings, when he was elected, showed me a map, and I thought it was incredible. So, including lanes, I mean, has that been thought out? I mean, I remember some lanes in a previous conversation we all had that have now been filled in, and people treat it as part of their plots.
so part of this, again, would address the paper streets, and that's sort of with this, but sort of a parallel path. The mayor and city council would have to decide on which of those paper streets have value or no value. There's the 800 block of, whether you're on Ontario or Otsego or Erie, there's a paper street that you're addressing back there. All in all, I can't give you the number total, but I would have to say it's probably somewhere 50 or 60.
That's about what's screaming in my
I would
head.
guess. There's a number of development that was anticipated in the north end of town, up near the North Park, where there's a number of paper streets that just have never been followed through with that development. So those, again, we'd have to decide whether that, the mayor and city council have to decide whether it would surplus them, and then how that transaction would occur. Would it occur, ideally it would be all the neighbors that back up to the paper street would each get half of the paper street, and everybody would be happy. However, we know that there's encroachments on some of those already. We have addressed, I think, it was in the several councils ago where we had some surplus paper streets up at the cemeteries, up at Mount Aaron and
Correct.
St. James, and the city, we put them on referendum and sold them to those organizations. So, yeah, there's a lot of work to do on this, and there's a lot of moving parts. But this administration is committed to at least get the ball going and not continue to kick it.
Well, I think Councilmember Shanegas has been doing a fantastic job bringing this, every so often when I get to watch or come here, of bringing these leases up. The last question I have, based on the conversation here, is right-of-way leases with the city if you live on a state route. You have Revolution, Juniata, Otsego, 155, coming down Superior Street. How is that going to be addressed? Is that going to be, is that a work session thing, or?
At the moment, we're on public hearing for ordinance 1091.
Okay.
I hate to split hairs with you on that, but we.
Okay, no,
But
that's
in a
fine.
few minutes, we'll be back on our citizen comment and come back on up and
Okay,
we'll see if that, get that. Sorry, Mr. Smith.
thank you so much, Mayor. I
You have
appreciate
to
it.
stay on topic on a public hearing, that's all.
It's going to, yeah, you guys picked a tough row, and I would like to say it's impressive, because a lot of politicians I've met in my time, merely it's a popular thing, I'm going to just do the popular thing. They don't want to take on the tough agenda items, and this, I think, is going to be one of the tougher agenda items I've seen in the 12 years I've lived here. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. We're still on public hearing for ordinance 1091. Who else in the audience wishes to speak to council? Before we close up, a couple comments. Ever since I've been, I've had the privilege to serve the citizens of Havre de Grace as a council member since 2008 and as mayor since 2015. City right-of-way issues have always been very tricky. I got to be honest with you, I grew up outside Annapolis when I was younger, in a small little suburb, and the word city right-of-way didn't exist. I didn't know what they were. I got an education when I became a council member really quick. Still didn't really understand at first, like why they were so important until you're on the council for a while, especially when you become the mayor, and you realize, you either have to fix a sidewalk, widen a street, move water crocks and meters, whatever the reason is, the city has maintained its possessive right from the middle of the street to a certain distance in each way. For example, Congress is 120 feet, I believe. All right, yeah, so you stand in the middle of the street and you go 60 feet in each way. And some people might say, well, that's, that's not necessary anymore. Or I've heard stories like, hey, Mayor, do you know why they have city right-of-way 120 feet on Congress? It's so your horse could turn around with the carriage. Like, I've heard all kind of different stories why what's that?
40-mule team.
The 40-mule team and stuff like that. I mean, and for whatever the reason, I think hopefully we all can agree that wherever there's a sidewalk or a water line or a utility line, gas line that's maintained by power companies, it's important to have these express easements where we can fix and maintain things. Over the years, as it was brought up earlier, we didn't have a zoning in the city until 1982. Havre de Grace was a very hodgepodge city, and kind of some of that gave us our character. Some of it is what makes us look very different as you go down some of these older streets. But as said, this administration is trying to take a very uniform approach to solving a very age-old dilemma. You would think when you see a house on Otsego or Union Avenue or Revolution Street that the front yards all belong to the citizen, but sometimes it's not the case depending on the right-of-way. And it's kind of the weird thing, like you may not own 20 feet of your front yard, it might be the city right-of-way, you don't pay taxes on it, but we also expect you to cut the grass. So it's kind of one of them, like, those unwritten agreements people have when you decide to live in a city, that these are how I'm going to live my life in a city. Now, I get this extended yard, but I got to cut the grass. But your yard looks bigger. Well, what we're doing now, I mean, what happens is when someone wants to put a fence around it and enclose the whole area, they're fencing an area that they're not paying taxes on, that no longer has any access to public. And so, you know, we can have academic conversations all day long about, you know, good, bad, indifferent. But one thing is the city needs access to its right-of-way without getting into litigation sometimes to fix things. So again, we're trying to tackle a long dilemma and come up with a fair approach. And before I close out this public hearing, Ms. Ishak has been working with us a lot on this, and for clarity, and hopefully, because I don't always explain things well, but for clarity from more of a legal standpoint and precedent, could you just give a little more of a background on the impetus of and approach of this ordinance?
Thank you, Mayor, and I wanted to thank the council, too, for considering this piece of, this particular legislation. What I've been working with Mr. Gamatoria on for quite a while, I think pretty much since I first came on, is the difference in how properties are treated around the city. Either they were encroaching prior to 1982 or after 1982 when zoning became effective, or more recently with the use of license or lease agreements, is a disparity in treatment of the different properties and ownership interests. So for instance, we would find some people claim they have leases to city rights-of-way. We have yet to find those leases. Other people claim to have adversely possessed property that's never been declared no longer needed for public use, and the law says there's no adverse possession against city property if it's still needed for public use. There's other case law that says unless the city council first declares public property no longer needed for public use, it has no right to grant that use to anybody else. That's the idea of claiming it a surplus property. Then there are different ways you can get into that. Do you put it up for bid? Does citizens have a right to referendum on it? Or can it be done by a negotiated agreement? What's the consideration? And across the years of all the different things that I've seen so far based on the research we've done internally is there's no rhyme or reason. It's really each administration seemed to have its own policy. And that's created some conflict because we don't know, as a council, the council does not have any parameters. So what I've been working with Steve on is to look at what the historical nature of these agreements were, if there were any, how can we find them if there aren't any. The paper roads issue came up. What do we do with the paper roads? Does the city still want to keep the paper roads? Is there a public use for them? Or can those be surplus? Can they be negotiated by boundary line agreements with the neighboring properties? A lot of these things could be more easily resolved if there was a policy in place based on existing law on how to best resolve those so that it's fair to everybody. But certainly what the city has not done, and I don't think there's anything indicated that this policy is trying to do, is take away rights from people where they actually own the property. If the citizen owns a property, and sometimes the title's not clear, we can clarify those particular issues. Other times, for example, the city roads, the city owns the roads based on the original land grant. In other areas of the city only has rights to the road surface, and the adjoining landowners own the underlying roadbed title. So that differs across the city as well. That's not the case necessarily in newer cities where the land is owned to the middle of the road by most landowners. That's not the case in Havre. The original land grant that we've been able to tell, the original owner of the property, Mr. Stokes, granted those rights to the city of Havre. So, and then that led to the various Hoppers maps that some people are familiar with. So it's a very complex issue. It goes back to the founding of our city, actually. In the records of the city rented out the city streets right from the beginning. I don't know if that's true in other communities, but so the city used to rent out the streets, and now we have areas where there's encroachment on the streets, and there's nothing. There's no record evidence. So the other thing that will be helpful from the landowner's perspective is the title will be cleared up. The boundary lines can be more clearly drawn on a case-by-case basis as needed, and then those property owners will now have clear title. It will add value to their properties in a way that's consistent, and they can get their properties, title, insurance, whatever. So it's, I think, long-term, once the policy is clarified, it's going to help everybody know what the parameters are of the policy, and it won't be as hodgepodge as it is now and has been historically.
Ms. Ishak, thank you very much. Council President, thank you for addressing the council's intentions for several public work sessions. And like I said, probably, I'm guessing the second reading and passage probably isn't written in stone. We'll probably play it loose and see where we get with the public comments.
I'm looking at early to mid-February.
All right.
Second reading.
All right, fair enough.
And I will send Risa and Tammy the proposed schedule
Okay,
of the hearings.
great.
So we
It'll
get
all
the
be
published.
posted online when we're having these public hearings. So stay tuned. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. We're going to close out the public hearing on ordinance 1091. Anybody in the mood for a council meeting? Okay, so sounds good. 1091 ordinance is closed out. It is now 7:37. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I call to order the meeting at Havre de Grace Mayor and City Council. The date is December 5th, 2022. Time is now 7:37. I'll call the roll. Council President Ringsager.
Here.
Councilmember Robertson.
Here.
Councilmember Shanegas.
Here.
Councilmember Martin.
Here.
Councilmember Boyer.
Here.
Councilmember Zinner.
Here.
Thank you very much, Council. Could everybody be kind enough to join me for the Pledge of Allegiance and opening prayer? I pledge allegiance to
The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If I could kindly ask everyone to please remain standing, as it gives me pleasure to call forward Miss Robin Stokes of Ames United Methodist Church. Good evening, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Mayor Martin and the City Council, Havre Grace Council, and the citizens of Havre Grace. Good evening. My name is Robin Stokes. I'm a member of Ames United Methodist Church, and I also serve on the Susquehanna Ministerium here in Havre Grace. So I just want to take a moment to, let's just center ourselves so we can just go into prayer. Heavenly Father, we come first to say thank you for the gift of another day. We ask that you be in the midst of this council meeting, Lord, the last one for the year, and that the decisions and the discussions here that take place, that they be pleasing in your sight. Father, we thank you for 2022. We thank you for the memories we created. We thank you for the good times and the victories we have. We thank you for the trials and tribulations you brought us through. For it is in those times when our faith is tested and proves our genuineness to you, Lord. We thank you for the abundance you provided us. And we thank you for your love you gave us, even in times when we didn't deserve it. As we reflect on the past and move into the new year, help us to remember the lessons you've taught us. Father, we have come through some trying times in the past few years, so we pray for peace and knowing that you will always be with us. Lord, we don't know what tomorrow will bring, but we're going to say thank you for it today and welcome in the new year of 2023. And as we move into this new year, grant us the courage to be humble, to begin again with renewed intentions. As we rise to meet each new day in the new year, help us to put away our old selves and be renewed in the spirit of truth. Lord, create in us that likeness of you, that true righteousness. Open our ears that we may hear from you as you guide us, and open our hearts that we love others the way you love us. And God, may we always look to you for strength, wisdom, and support. Father, we pray for your gracious hand of protection upon everyone under the sound of my voice and in this harbor of grace. We ask that you open the right doors in our lives and for our loved ones. And if I may add a personal prayer, Lord, it is not always easy to forget the hurt others have caused you, but you didn't call me to forget. You called me to forgive. Lord, help me to forgive the Havre Grace policewoman who racially profiled me Friday evening after a fun time in a parade. Help her to understand that the differences among cultures and races are multicolored manifestations of your light. I know that the struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities. Ever-present God, you called us to be in relationship with one another and promised to dwell wherever 2 or 3 are gathered in your name. In our community, we are all different people. We come from many different places and have many different cultures. Open our hearts that we may be bold in finding the richness of inclusion and the treasures of diversity among us. Lord, I pray for her growth, understanding, and knowledge for what she don't understand, and I pray for her vision. Help her to see the beautiful colors of you and your church. And I wish all of you a happy and safe Christmas, and I wish you all the great blessings from above. We pray in faith and in Jesus' name. So let us all say amen. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go to item number 5, approval of minutes. The Havre Grace City Council meeting minutes of November 21st, 2022. Council, have a motion to approve?
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Zinner, second by Councilmember Boyer. Oh, sorry, Schnegus. Okie dokie, let me change that. Motion by Councilmember Zinner, second by Councilmember Schnegus. This is the approval of the City Council meeting minutes of November 21st, 2022. Questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries 6-0 in the affirmative. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, before we move on,
Yeah, go ahead.
you got a little ahead of me there, I apologize. I do need to make a friendly amendment to the agenda. Under 11A, Ms. Tracy Robertson will not be making a presentation at this time.
Okay. I will remove that from the agenda. Fair enough. Thank you, Council President. Item 6, comments from citizens. This is the part of the council meeting where if you wish to speak on an agenda item, this is the time to do so. Also, if you're here to speak on any other matter of city business, it's a good time to be recognized as well. So, Ms. Parsons, did you have anything you wanted to add? I noticed it said resolution on transport, or did you already say it?
Sorry, tinnitus actually kicked in. I'm sorry, Mayor. What did you say, sir?
I'm sorry. On your form, it said ordinance 1091 and resolution on transport.
Yes. I did say that earlier, and that was thanking Councilmember Boyer for her resolution that's going to be coming forward.
Okay.
But I did have one quick question about right-of-ways that Mr. Smith was asking about, because some of us, I do fall into that category where the right-of-way, I'm on a state road. Exactly. But when I look at my deed actually takes me to the end of the sidewalk. So the question is does it fall under city? Does it fall under state? But I've got a drawing and a deed that clearly takes me to the very end of the sidewalk. It shows where there should be a state right-of-way, but I think we might get into some of the, like what you're challenged with, going back to 1700s of when things were sent. And I appreciate you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Parsons. Ms. Donna Mandel. Good evening, welcome. Please have your name and address for the record.
Thank you. Donna Mandel, 1725 Tower Road, Aberdeen. I'm here on behalf of the Havre Grace Farmers Market, asking for the City Council's support in piloting a mini winter farmers market this year. We're asking to do it from January through April, first and third Saturdays, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., so shorter hours. We have approximately 10 to 15 vendors interested in participating in the winter market, so we're hoping we'll be able to make a go with it, weather dependent. And moving the winter market only down to Congress in front of the Star Center, so we can utilize the electricity and the bathrooms there for the vendors.
Any questions?
Going over the agenda the other day, we were talking about that, and I love the idea. I would love for you guys to also do like a Christmas market or something, like maybe in the years, this year's obviously past, but like if we could transition like a Christmas market into like the winter market kind of thing, that'd be something to think about, be kind of cool.
Well, we do go to December 17th.
Okay.
This year. I offered to go to Christmas Eve, but the other vendors turned me down. I was willing to be there. And last year we went to the 18th, I think it was. So we're shooting to keep the traditional May market through December to the Saturday before Christmas. But we can certainly poll the vendors to see if they would be interested in doing anything. Are you talking like right up into Christmas?
No, not
or-
like the date. I'm talking about a Christmas market, like a Kris Kringle Mart kind of thing where people come in, like a German Christmas market kind of thing.
Oh, okay. Well, we can definitely look into that.
Incorporate something like that into it. It'd be kind of cool. Just a thought. I mean, put the seed in the brain.
We're definitely looking for vendors who are interested in coming in, especially in December, because we do lose, like the produce vendors, flower vendors, we do lose some vendors during that time period. So we are actively looking for vendors that would be more of a Christmas gift type, craft vendors to come in during November, December time period to kind of fill in that gap.
That would be cool.
Yes, go ahead.
So the moving of the farmer's market to the Star Center, is that something that you would hope that it would stay there? Or is your anticipation is to go back to the lower Congress area for the spring and summer?
Right now, our anticipation would be to go back to the lower Congress area, to St. John and the entrance of Hutchins Park. I mean, eventually, we'd like to be back in the park if that is at all possible in the future. It would give us a lot more flexibility. For example, this weekend, the rain just killed the farmer's market, but the afternoon it was sunny. If we were in the park, we would have a little more flexibility with our hours to let customers know that we're going to, move to an afternoon market because the sun's coming out. Which we don't have that flexibility, unfortunately, with closing streets down, so we were kind of stuck with, the time period we had. But we made it good. We were in Olivia's Health Market taking pictures with Santa Claus, the 5 vendors who braved the rain this weekend. But yeah, we can definitely talk about it with the vendor board to see what their interests would be. We've had anecdotally, citizens have come up and talked to us about they do like the Congress Street location. They love the parking lot. They love the convenience there. The parking lot is right there. But then we also have a lot of customers that live in the downtown area, in the condominiums and so forth, who walk to the market. And they love that ability to just, take a couple blocks walk and they're right there at a farmer's market. So we kind of get the comments from both sides.
So the true preference, number one, would be under a tent in Hutchins.
Yes.
And then number two is as close as possible to that location.
Correct.
Because of the clientele.
Right.
Got it. Understood. Thank you.
Any other questions? Amy?
Good evening. My question is, how many vendors do you have interested in the winter market?
It varies with each month. January, we're looking at about 10 that are interested, and then as we get into February, March, April, it goes up. As the weather gets warmer, the less hardy vendors start being willing to participate, because it is going to be an outdoor market. We do a pop-up market in Bully Rock. We started it last year, the second Saturday of every month, and that's also an outdoor market. So we did explain to the vendors that, being indoors is not an option because so many of us have to work out of our vehicles and trailers and so forth. So we don't have that option to be indoors.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? Donna, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, my last pre-filled out form. Mr. Joe Smith. Next. I'll get you next, Joe. Sorry.
Hey, Joe.
Two Joes. Sorry.
Two Joes.
Welcome, sir. May we please have your name and address for the record?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Joseph Smith, 110 Flying Ebony, Havre de Grace, Maryland.
Welcome.
21078. Great to be back in the council chamber again. I will keep my comments brief. I'm here primarily to express appreciation for the agenda item specifically related to an update on the downtown revitalization plan. For those of you who don't know, I'm a co-owner of a business on Washington Street in downtown Havre de Grace, and I'm also currently the coordinator, I'll call it a coordinator role for the downtown merchants. And as you might guess or might understand, that many of us that have businesses in the core downtown business district are quite, I'll say, nervous about the plans. We're excited about the potential, but we're nervous about how we get there. And so we have been very anxiously awaiting for any updates from the city, and so we're very grateful that you are providing an update this evening. My only comment would be on behalf of the merchants is that we would appreciate a bit more warning or a bit more communication that this was coming. I just happened to see it on the agenda this morning and made it known to the rest of the community that this was happening tonight. So hopefully many of them are tuning in right now and watching or will watch the recording. But look forward to a healthy and a constructive dialogue on what happens and what the plans are. Our main concerns are not so much the end result, I think, although there is some concerns about parking, but also how we get there and what closures might exist and what impacts that will have on our businesses and our business hours. A good example is what's just recently happened with BG&E. There's something that's come up just this past week about BG&E turning the power off for many businesses the week before Christmas. We don't want to see things like that happening when the city is running the project. And so we're looking for a constructive, open dialogue with the city. We're all looking forward to the great improvements that are planned. We just are concerned about how we get there. So that's the primary comments that I have. Should also hear, I'm here also as a member of the Chamber of Commerce as well, along with my colleague, Mr. Boker. And then the other thing I wanted to say is I heartily support Ms. Meadows' comments about the winter market as a frequent participant in the market. I think Donna can attest that I'm there pretty much every weekend. So would heartily support a winter market type of event. And yes, I will bundle up and be there as well. So good luck with that. So thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Good evening, Mr. Kukendorfer.
Joe Kukendorfer, Tidings Road. Give you a baseline. It's not the building, it's not the speakers, and it's not the sound system, but I did not understand more than 5% of the words that were being said here tonight. So that's why you don't see me at city council meetings anymore. But I appreciate that the city council meetings are presented in closed caption, on the closed caption version of the city's website. However, it is necessary usually to wait for 1 or more days after the meeting for that to be available. The meeting film is available, but the closed caption is not immediately available. So this puts me a few days behind, or maybe more, so that I am not as responsive as I might be under other circumstances. But I'm here tonight in person, and that's an important phrase, in person, to make some comments relative to discussions that were made during the introduction of Ordinance 1091 at the last council meeting. And because I have found that this is the only way, being here in person, that my comments can be officially part of the record. I have provided written comments for inclusion at public hearings and council meetings a few times over the last couple of years. However, because I was not present in the flesh, those comments never made the record. Hopefully, I've learned how to rectify that, anyway, having been a member of the Planning Commission from the mid-'80s through the late 1990s, excuse me. I'm old, but not quite that old. One of the most important things we did, in my estimation, was the preparation and the eventual passage by the council in 1982 of the city's first zoning ordinance. Up until that time, there was not much control, which resulted in a mixing of incompatible uses, no real limitations on lot sizes or setbacks, fairly uncontrolled use of the right-of-way, and a plethora of things such as off-street parking, property maintenance, and so on. So I want to make some observations on the comments which were made at the introduction of the fee ordinance. At the last council meeting, there was considerable discussion about the use of the right-of-way and to whom it belongs. My position is that it belongs to 14,000 plus inhabitants of the city and should not be offered cavalierly to property owners who wish to do something which is primarily only of benefit to them. It has been stated in recent ordinances or making an argument for granting the use of the right-of-way that it may be in the best interest of the city by including a phrase, and I quote here, this phrase appears in ordinances, promotes health, safety, and welfare of the public and serves the city's general purposes, end quote. Last November, former Council President Glenn questioned how this is accomplished, and I agree with him that it usually benefits only the receiver of the waiver and not the city. 20 plus years ago, Council introduced the concept of license agreements, which have a fee and do not run with the property, when these covered non-structural uses on the right-of-way. This procedure has been somewhat used and abused over the years. Acquiring ownership of city property for use is covered in the charter by requiring a referendum vote by the citizens, so that issue is pretty well decided. In summary, and this is my feelings, aesthetics or comfort or desire are not issues that I think should be the prime mover behind the relinquishment of the right-of-way by a license agreement or lease. But if that action is taken, there should be a continuing cost involved and a time limit set. As I said at the beginning, these are not comments on the introduction of the ordinance and the fees therein. It is the comments at the introduction that prompted my appearance this evening, as well as that I must do it in person. I can't send you a message to be included in the record, for it to be included on the record. Thank you. I'll have my daughter take me home now, and we'll see you.
Thank you very much. Any other citizens in the audience wish to address the council? Sir. Good evening and welcome, sir. May we please have your name and address for the record?
Hello, Rick Wall, 329 Bounding Home Court here in Havre de Grace. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, department directors, city staff. It's always good to come up here to city council to say thank you in person for what you do for our Havre de Grace youth sailing program that we operate in the summertime. We couldn't do it without your support, and that's why I'm saying thank you in person. And that thank you goes all the way down to the employees of the city also that maintain the marina, keep the docks floating for us, to the DPW department that keeps the park in such great shape. This year we'll had a great camp in 2022, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it in a minute. But tonight I'm here because we have our 2023 application to use Hutchins Park for our summer camp before you, hoping that you'll find pleasure in having us in your park again, or our park, the city's park. This is our 7th year of doing the Havre de Grace Youth Sailing Program, and it's grown every year. And in 2023, we expect it to grow again. This year, I'm coming here in December, where I normally come in February or March, because we're trying to get a head start on our registration process that has gotten more complicated as the years go by, just because of the sheer number of kids that we sign up. We normally start Monday after Father's Day and run through the second week of August, and that's because our instructors, who are mostly high school and college kids, have to go back to school. And so we give them a little bit of time to refresh themselves and get ready to go. For 2023, we restructured our program a little bit. It still has kids in boats going sailing on the Susquehanna River right here in Havre de Grace. But we started a green fleet this year. It's for kids 9.5 years old and younger that have some or no sailing experience, and it's a 1-week course. It's the same thing we've been doing in the past, but we're just calling it the Green Fleet, and it's for 1 week. Our basic, intermediate, and advanced instruction, we're going to change it this year, and it's going to be a 2-week course. So instead of coming just Monday through Friday, it's Monday through Friday for 2 weeks. What we found is that a lot of our kids that come to the 1-week course come back for a second week. And so it's a rinse and repeat, and we're not able to give them the kind of instruction that we'd like to help make them maybe into a lifelong sailor. And then we're going to have 2 performance sessions this year, one with Opties, which are our smaller boats, to, again, a 2-week session where the kids will be able to learn some racing skills and race the boats against each other. And then we're going to do the same with our bigger boats to teach the kids, again, more sailing skills to race against each other. The other thing that we did this year in 2022 that we're going to do in 2023 is we started a junior big boat program. Everybody has seen the Thursday night sailboat races from the Havre de Grace Yacht Club, and so myself and another one of the instructors from camp or board members started taking some of the older kids, 14 and above, and we put them on a bigger boat, do 8 training sessions with them to teach them how to run the boat in a race, how to fly a spinnaker, and so on, so that they're ready for the next level of sailing to make it a lifelong habit. And so that's kind of how our 2023 program the application to use the park will be structured this year. For the great news about our 2022 season that we finished up, we had over 220 kids come to camp this summer. Of that, 70 came right here from Havre de Grace. So we had a large increase this year from Havre de Grace, and a lot of that's possible because of the support that you give us. We gave 18 scholarships away to kids that might not have been able to go sailing otherwise, or they wouldn't have been able to go sailing otherwise. And so that's, just some of the stuff that we do in the camp. The other great thing we do that we've never ever talked about before, our program has 17 staff members. Those staff members, 8 of them come right here from Havre de Grace. Some are hired, high school kids. And everybody here, I'm sure, knows Miss Liz Nemeth. She's our camp director from the middle school. An awesome asset for our camp. The other thing that we didn't even realize until after camp was over this year of how our program has affected kids is we have 5 kids, sailors right now that, I say right now, the season's closed for them also, but are involved in high school sailing programs around the Chesapeake Bay, where they go out on Saturdays with other groups of kids and race against each other. And so that's something that we've always strived to do, is get our kids that come through our camp involved in sailing more. But like I say, this year we found 5 of them, had progressed outside of what we can offer in our program. Again, thanks again. I hope you find favor in our application today so that we can continue on with our 7th year of doing Havre de Grace Youth Sailing Program out of Hutchins Park. I'm here if you have any questions later on. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Rick. Any questions, council? Rick, thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak to the council? Yes, ma'am. Welcome. May you please have your name and address for the record.
Yes, Tracy Robertson, 414 Bourbon Street.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, City Council Administration staff for the opportunity to speak tonight on behalf of the Havre de Grace Youth Commission event application for our Refuel for School event. The Youth Commission's purpose is to promote the value of young people in our community, to advise the Mayor and City Council on matters relating to youth of Havre de Grace, coordinate youth events and programs, and cultivate relationships with community organizations and businesses. The Youth Commission has submitted our application for Refuel for School, which is intended as a free youth festival to celebrate the end of summer and the return to school. This past Refuel for School event held in August far exceeded our expectations for several reasons. First, our Youth Commission was able to raise $1,800 in sponsorships to help offset the cost of the inflatables and entertainment for the festivals. Our sponsors included Harford Bank, Ashley Clubhouse, Aberdeen Proving Ground Credit Union, and Harford Digital Marketing. Our commission members also raised an additional $460 by helping at First Friday Kid Zone events and selling items to assist. We hope by getting an earlier start this year that we can obtain additional sponsorships and vendors that will help us cover more of the expenses for the festival, as our goal is to continue to offer this event free for families for them to participate. As part of the festival, the Youth Commission invites community partners to provide an array of activities and resources for families and parents families and parents in lieu of paying a vendor fee. This approach has resulted in hundreds of school supplies being donated by our community partners, as well as fun, free activities for our families and participants. This year, we had double the number of community partners than last year. Our community partners include the Boys and Girls Club of Harford and Cecil counties, Havre de Grace Library, Harford Community College, Harford County Department of Health, and local churches and more. We are very proud to say that in large part of donation of school supplies by the VFW Post Auxiliary at Havre de Grace, Joseph L. Davis American Legion Auxiliary Unit 47, Staples and Elkton Store, and our community partners, the Youth Commission was able to assemble and donate over 350 bags of school supplies at the event this year. The support of the Havre de Grace businesses for our last festival was also overwhelming. We received door prizes in the form of gift cards and merchandise from the downtown stores such as Glyph Design Studio, Joe Retro, Joseph's Department Store, and Card Aid. These door prizes provide us a unique opportunity to gather contact information from the participants, as well as provide a special treat for those lucky attendees. The Havre de Grace Youth Commission was also very grateful for the mayor for opening the festival this year. We were very excited that so many city council members came out to attend the event. It is hard to describe the impact of this festival that it has on the community without seeing the faces of the students lined up for the school supplies, seeing the children racing across the 50-foot obstacle course, or seeing the children enjoying the free activities and the families dancing at our annual DJ dance party, which has become a staple to close out our festival. This is just something you have to see for yourself in person. So we are very grateful for you coming out and supporting and showing your support. The Youth Commission is asking that the city approve its event application for Refuel for School Festival for August 26th at Concord Point Park. This will provide us with time to plan for a bigger and better event, and we intend to keep the same type of activities, involvement from our community partners and businesses. It is truly a unique festival geared towards middle and high school students and their families, and provides an opportunity for our youth to work together with businesses and community partners to put a festival on that is just for them. Thank you, and appreciate your time and consideration. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Mrs. Robinson. Again, the Refuel for School was a great event, well done. I can see the impact it had immediately on kids that showed up. Any question from the council? Comments? Thank you very much. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak to council, or address the council, on any concerns? Okay, all right, fair enough. Okay, we're going to go to item 7, appointments. We have an appointment to the Tree Commission, and the liaison to the Tree Commission is Councilmember Boyer.
Mayor, I move, pardon me, I move that we reappoint Morgan Jones to the Tree Commission.
I have a motion by Councilmember Boyer, which is seconded by Councilmember Robertson. This is the appointment of Ms. Morgan Jones, or reappointment of Ms. Morgan Jones to the Tree Commission. Questions or comments? Yes.
I just want to, glow about how wonderful Morgan is. Her enthusiasm, her intellect, her commitment is just, it's just wonderful. And to get her involved in the city and to keep her involved in the city, I think is a great thing. I expect her to grow even more in the next couple of years. So highly encourage the vote for her. Thank you, Morgan.
Thank you, Councilmember Boyer. Any other questions or comments? Council's is for the reappointment of Ms. Morgan Jones to the Tree Commission. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Mrs. Morgan Jones has been reappointed to the Tree Commission, 6-0 in the affirmative. Item 8 is we're actually going to have an oath of office for a young lady who was appointed to the Board of Elections Supervisors at the last meeting. Unfortunately, she couldn't make it, but I kindly asked her if she could come to this evening's meeting and learn about right-of-way issues and then be sworn in officially as a member of the Board of Elections. So, Ms. Boyle, if you could join me down here, I'd appreciate it. First of all, I wish to thank you for being willing to serve. I know you have volunteered for elections in the past. We usually have like a 5-6 year trial period to see if you're going to fit into the group.
Mission accomplished.
Thank you very much. All right, we appreciate it. It's a very important commission. I mean, they meet at least once every year, but sometimes more than that. So, as you know, so special elections here and there or ballot questions. But I know you're great, and thank you so much. We definitely need good people on it. So, Marcia, I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand.
Did you say Marcia?
Marcy. Marcy, raise your right hand and repeat after me. When I say the word I, repeat the word I, but also say your name.
Okay.
I
Marcy Boyle,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will fulfill the requirement
that I will fulfill the requirement
of the office
of the office
I'm about to assume,
I'm about to assume,
that I'll support
that I'll support
the Constitution
the Constitution
of the United States,
of the United States. Amen.
that I will be faithful
That I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance
and bear true allegiance
to the state of Maryland
to the state of Maryland
and support the Constitution
and support the Constitution
and laws thereof,
and laws thereof,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially,
and impartially,
without fear
without fear
or favor
or favor
or prejudice,
or prejudice,
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
as a member of
as a member of
the Board of Elections
the Board of Elections
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Marcy, thank you.
You're welcome,
Well
sir.
Everyone who steps up and volunteers to serve the city, I present with the flag of our city. Take this with you. Fly it somewhere good.
Right in front of the house?
Perfect. May I have a picture with you real quick? Marcy, happy holidays. Okay. Okay, we're going to go on to item number 9, recognitions. This evening, we have no recognitions. Item 10, proclamations. We have no proclamations this evening also. Item 11, presentations, and we have a presentation. And I would like to call forward Mr. Patrick Seipold, Director of Capital Projects and Grant Management for the City of Havre de Grace, to update us on what's going on with the downtown revitalization and restoration.
Well, good evening, Mayor and City Council. Thank you for this opportunity. Let me see, where am I at? There you go. As you may recall, it has been almost a year since we began this journey, with a series of meetings engaging our community through a charrettes process. The project update that I am presenting to you is an execution of the vision that was garnished from those community meetings. The purpose of this project is to create open, walkable, accessible, and shared use spaces to include wider sidewalks, a healthy and consistent tree canopy, curbless streets, linear parks, and a small plaza. The city engaged with Tool Design to take us through the design of our construction documents to achieve the purpose I just mentioned. To date, we have completed existing conditions investigations, which include the topographic survey, subsurface utility engineering, preliminary environmental review services such as the natural and cultural review services to determine permitting requirements, as well as meeting with the Maryland Department of the Environment on an on-site pre-application meeting that was held on October 25th. Currently, the preliminary stormwater management plan is anticipated to be submitted on December 22nd of this year, as well as the 30% design for the Priority 1 area. It's also anticipated to be submitted December 22nd in 2022. So what do these percentages mean when I refer to 30%? Well, the phase of the project that we're currently in is known as the construction documents phase. It is generally split into thirds. It is an accepted practice used throughout development of the architectural and engineering industry. They're split into thirds. Each milestone marks an important step in outlining and identifying the project's challenges and opportunities. So up to this point and approaching this 30%, we've been gaining and garnishing information about our city as a whole. As you can see, so the first step, which we are approaching now at the conclusion of December, will be 30% drawings. At that point, we, the city, will receive construction documents looking at the basic architectural plan and the elevations. The city then takes those and reviews those and then returns them back to Tool Design. After a period of time, we will reach step 2, which is the 60% drawings. And again, they develop and review additional architectural framework and engineering. Plus, they'll confirm all of the revisions that we made from the 30% drawings. And then we enter into step 3, or we approach that, which is the 90% drawings, which is develop and review the additional architectural and structural drawings, which include engineering, develop and review mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and then confirm to all of the comments that we made at our 60% review. This may seem a bit laborious, but given the scope and magnitude of this process, it's a necessary process that we enter into to ensure we cover all of our bases, all of our T's are crossed and I's are dotted. And as I mentioned previously, several of the items have been addressed thus far, and this has all been, over this period of time, data collecting. So Strahan Environmental has completed the preliminary environmental and cultural reviews. KCI Engineering completed the existing conditions survey. Underwood and Associates is completing the preliminary stormwater management plan. And Tool Design, our primary contractor, in addition to orchestrating the efforts of the 3 I just mentioned, also provide engineering design to bring our project to fruition. This would then be a concept of seeing that, the fruit of our labor. So I'll give you a second just to take that in. As you notice, the wider sidewalks, curbless streets, continuous tree canopy, those things that were cited in our charrettes process. So what's next? The next steps will be the final design of the Priority 1 area, which includes supplemental existing conditions, which the survey and a right-of-way surveys. We will then receive 60% design back for our review, then a final environmental permitting services that are outlined. We then receive our 90% design, after which then we migrate into the 100% design. So what does this mean as far as a time frame or putting a calendar to it? Supplemental conditioning existence, existing conditions investigations will finish up in January. Our 60% designs, once we return our 30%, once we review them and give them to tool design, and we anticipate them coming back in the January, February timeframe. We will then have final environmental permitting services, which is February to May. Understand that's a 2-month up to a 6-month process. We do not control that, but that's all based upon the critical path that it has to go through to the various regulatory agencies. We then get a 90% design, which we anticipate to be back in February and March, assuming the critical path is short. 100% designs will be ready in April. We will then begin advertising, put it out in May, anticipate a 30-day or so turnaround, bid opening in June, and the contract would be awarded for construction in July. And with that, is there any questions?
Mr. Seipel, thank you very much. Council, any questions? Councilmember Zinner.
Thank you. Mr. Seipel, so there's a lot of discussion around the curbless sidewalks. Will there be parking on those streets or no parking?
There would be parking on those streets.
Okay, so the demarcation line, how would that be set for vehicles parking? I'm assuming they'll be parking parallel and not diagonally?
So as you see in the, as a rendition there, one concept that they're looking at would be parallel. Parking could be delineated by paving stone or concrete, as you see there in marked, as opposed to striping. It would be embedded into the streetscape itself, as opposed to a painted line.
Okay, but there would be no obstruction, so to speak, if someone lost control of a car and kind of moved up onto the sidewalk or had trouble parking for whatever reason.
Correct.
Okay. Makes me nervous, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Zinner. Councilmember Robertson.
Patrick, thank you very much for coming and giving an update. I know that we've been asking for a while, so I really appreciate that this was on the agenda tonight. I guess my question would be pertaining to the infrastructure underground and how that fits into what we're planning to do above ground, and do those timelines coincide? And then also, council had approved a $6 million budget for Fund 1 for downtown revitalization, and I'm still not certain whether that included the pipes in the ground as well as the facade above or not. So could you just maybe speak a little bit to that?
Sure. So, see, it was a very long question, but I'll try to, if I miss something, please come back at me. So anyway, so the underground utilities, we've been looking at those pretty hard. We have some engineering going on right now with the water lines down beneath. Part of the final conclusion on the sewer and the water lines, especially in the Priority 1 area, will hinge upon the completion of the topography. In other words, the elevations. Where do the sidewalks and streets sit? compared to where they sit today. I say that because cleanouts and curb stops, valving has to be set. So that comes back when we get to 30% drawings. Also, in addition with that, come the placement of these various cleanouts and/or, let's say, for example, fire hydrants. Where would they set relative along a street line, and placement of the trees, so you have some symmetry and/or some canopy continuation. These are some of the various challenges, I guess, we have in coming up with what we're trying to do with the streetscape. So as that continues to come together, when we get our 30% and then migrate into our 60s, all of that will be fleshed out. We're fortunate in that, at least as it relates to the sewer, on the St. John's portion of town, that sewer line will end up being relined and does not have to be replaced. On the Washington Street side, those 2 blocks of the North Washington will have to be replaced. There is some failing infrastructure there that needs attention. So it's an answer to your question that is included in what we have set aside at this point for this project. And preliminarily, again, it depends on what you decide to do with various components that you incorporate in these facades. It looks like we're on target to be on budget with where we're trying to head with this.
Well, given the circumstances of the economy as it stands, that's an impressive feat
Amen to
to
that.
accomplish. So thank you, Patrick.
Sure.
Thank you, Councilman Robertson. Any other questions? Councilman Boyer.
And just to go along that lines, just so that everybody is aware, as far as timing goes, the majority of this is with ARP funds?
That is correct.
And what is the timeline those must be spent by?
They have to be committed by 2024, the end of 2024.
So they don't actually have to be, we don't have to cash checks, we just have to make a committed what does committed mean?
Encumbered. Those funds have to be encumbered to a project.
Okay.
George, you're going to...
If I may, there is a requirement that they be spent by 2026.
Okay, so they're encumbered by?
Have to be obligated by
2024. And then 2 years later, they have to be spent?
They have to have been spent by 2 years later.
Okay.
Councilman Martin. Thank you, George.
Thank you, Patrick. A lot of hard work went into this, and I appreciate your time. If we go with the paving material for the parking spaces, are we looking at doing pervious or impervious for that?
I'm not sure that has been answered yet. It is something we're exploring. But when you go with pervious, you also have to have a source for that groundwater. So that's still part of the discussion.
Thank you.
Councilman Robertson.
So just, I guess, for my own education, what, is there going to be like, once the design is done, is there going to be a point in time where it'll come before council for an approval on the plan? Or are we just driving on with, there's a budget and the council's approved the administration to spend that money, and what comes up, comes up?
I can answer that, Patrick.
Yeah, I work at Charles' pleasure, right? Well, primarily the mayor's.
It's a collaborative effort, Councilman Robertson. Once we know exactly, we'll put a package together that fits into the scope and the price range of what we can do. Like simple questions that Mr. Seipel was just trying to answer, we haven't actually explored pervious versus impervious pavers yet, or the cost, or, where the groundwater goes. These are things we're going to put together, but when everything gets put together as a final package, of course, we'll have work sessions and say, is this the final way we're going to roll with it? Because even though this is ARPA money, this is still expenditure of funds, and council approves the expenditure of funds. So we're going to come up with the best package that we can get most bang with the buck, and then when it does, we'll hand it off to public work session.
I appreciate that, because as it stands at this point, we haven't really, as a council, been able to say yay or nay to, closing down Washington Street and making it walkable, or making it one-way, or, any of the other plans that were put forward in those charrettes. So I appreciate the opportunity to have that discussion.
Yes, sir.
I would, if you don't mind, I'll address that one comment. There have been no discussions of one-way streets at this juncture, any additional than what's already currently exist. Calm your concern there.
Any other question, Mr. Seipel? Mr. Seipel, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks,
Thank you
Patrick.
all.
We will continue to give updates to the citizens of Havre de Grace every few months as we get any significant more drawings and design that goes into the downtown restoration revitalization project. This is a very bold undertaking. It's taken a lot of work with some dedicated staff, a lot of weekly meetings, but like I say, we're on it. A lot of cities probably wouldn't try something like this. I want everybody to keep that in mind. So we're trying to go somewhere that a lot of places haven't gone. We want to do it, and we want to do it right, and we want to do it for posterity and for the citizens of Havre de Grace, and come up with something that everyone in the city can be proud of. And so I appreciate council taking the time to hear the update from Mr. Seipel. And with that, Council President, would you mind a quick recess before we head into all of our legislative items?
By all means, sir.
Council have any objection for a quick recess? Okay, it's 8:33. We'll come back here at 8:43. All right, we'll do a 10-minute recess, and we'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. We took a short recess. The time is now 8:44. We're going to roll into the legislative part of this evening's agenda. We have a resolution, a couple ordinances. So, item 12, resolutions. A resolution concerning transportation priorities and policy positions. And I'm going to hand this off to Councilmember Boyer.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I move to introduce a resolution concerning the transportation priorities and policy positions.
Second.
Council, I have a motion by Councilmember Boyer, seconded by Councilmember Martin. This is an introduction of a resolution. Questions or comments on the motion to introduce? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion to introduce resolution concerning transportation priorities and policy positions. Carry 6-0 in the affirmative. Madam Secretary, could you please assign this resolution a number and please read the header into the record?
Yes, this will be resolution number 2022-31. A resolution by the Mayor and City Council of Havre de Grace, Maryland, pursuant to the local government article of the Annotated Code of Maryland in sections 33 and 34 of the City Charter to adopt transportation priorities and policy positions.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. Council, may I have a motion to adopt Resolution 2022-31?
So moved, Boyer.
Seconded by Shenagus.
I have a motion to adopt by Councilmember Boyer and seconded by Councilmember Shenagus. Thank you. Questions or comments on Resolution 2022-31? Councilmember Boyer.
Mayor, I just want to let everyone know, so the purpose of this is for us to identify what the priorities are and then to use this to communicate to not only people who represent us in the county council, but also down in Annapolis and engaging with the governor, et cetera. In it, we include our priority locations, asking for the intersection at 40 and Ostego in Ohio to be put on the priority transportation letter for Harford County. In the past, this has been identified as a priority location by the state, but because it wasn't on our county list, it got passed over. So hopefully we can coalesce everybody and going on the shared path to try to seek a resolution, or at least, I don't know if we'll ever get to a 100% solution there, but at least make the situation a little bit better. In addition, the off-bound ramp at 155 and the US 40 shared use path. In addition, it goes over a couple of other priorities for the city, and I want to highlight here something that is of interest to all of us, which is creating a better solution for a pedestrian or non-motorized transportation across the river over to Perryville with the new bridge, recognizing that the current bicycle access on the Route 40 bridge is ineffective. And that's it. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your comments, Councilmember Boyer. Any other questions or comments? Okay, without any further questions or comments, we're going to do a roll call on Resolution 2022-31. Councilmember Zinner.
Yes.
Councilmember Shenagus.
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer.
Yes.
Councilmember Robertson.
Yes.
Councilmember Martin.
Yes.
Council President.
Yes.
With a roll call vote of 6-0 in the affirmative, Resolution 2022-31 is approved by the council. We're going to go to item 13, which is ordinances, and we have two ordinances. And first one's going to be a second reading on Ordinance 1090. Council President Ringsacker.
Mr. Mayor, Council, citizens all, I make a motion to introduce ordinance number 1090 concerning amending section 127-10 food truck requirements for second reading and adoption.
Second.
Soccer.
Council, I have a motion by the council president, second by Councilmember Zinner. This is a motion to introduce ordinance 1090 on second reading. Questions or comments on the introduction? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion to introduce ordinance 1090 carries 6-0 in the affirmative. Madam Secretary, can you kindly read the header of ordinance 1090 into the record one more time?
Okay. An ordinance by the Mayor and City Council of Havre de Grace, Maryland, adopted pursuant to the authority of Article 11-E of the Maryland Constitution, the local government article of the Annotated Code of Maryland, and Sections 33 and 34 of the Havre de Grace City Charter to amend Section 127-10, Food Truck Requirements of the City Code, Chapter 127, titled Peddling and Soliciting.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. Council, I have a motion to adopt ordinance 1090 on second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Martin, seconded by the Council President. Are there questions or comments on 1090? Council President.
Mr. Mayor, Council, this just changes a few of the requirements on like locations and what we expect from our food vendors. We did amend it to remove the places on Congress from the original ordinance.
Thank you, Council President. Any other questions or comments? Council, stand by for roll call vote on ordinance 1090. Councilmember Boyer.
Yes.
Council President.
Yes.
Councilmember Shanegas.
Yes.
Councilmember Robertson.
Aye.
Councilmember Zinner.
Yes.
Councilmember Martin.
Yes.
Roll call vote, 6-0 in the affirmative. Ordinance 1090 concerning amending sections 127-10 food truck requirements is adopted and approved by council on second reading. Item B, ordinance concerning amending City Code, Chapter 67, Ethics. And this will be introduced by the Chair of the Ethics Liaison. Sir, Councilmember Martin.
Mayor, Council, I make a motion to accept the amendments to Charter 67, the ethics. It's a performer requirement to meet the new state requirements, and nothing really changing except we're back in compliance with what the state wishes to see.
Yes, sir. Council, I have a motion by Councilmember Martin. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilmember Zinner?
Yes.
Okay. Seconded by Councilmember Zinner. And this is a motion to introduce an ordinance on first reading. Questions or comments on the introduction? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion to introduce an ordinance concerning Ethics Code, Chapter 67, carries 6-0 on the introduction. Madam Secretary, could you please assign this ordinance a number and read the header into the record?
Yes, this will be ordinance number 1092, an ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Havre de Grace, adopted pursuant to the authority of Article 11-E of the Maryland Constitution, the local government article of the Annotated Code of Maryland, Title 5 of the General Provisions, article of the Annotated Code of Maryland, and Sections 33 and 34 of the Havre de Grace City Charter, for the purpose of amending City Code Chapter 67, Ethics.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. Council, I have a motion to adopt 1092 on first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Martin, second by Councilmember Shanegas. Questions or comments before the roll call vote? Councilmember Boyer?
Can we just get just an overview of this for the members of the public and the purpose for the edits being made to it?
I'm going to defer to the city attorney for the overview.
Okay, so state law requires annually that the city audit the current city ethics code and compare it to any amendments to the state ethics code. So when I went through that review process, these were the changes to the state code that were not yet incorporated into the city's code. They were submitted to the State Ethics Commission and found to be in compliance. And so now it's the city council's opportunity to approve what is technically required by state law, that we contain the updates to the state code.
Thank you, Ms. Ishant. Any other questions or comments? Council roll call vote on ordinance 1092. Councilmember Martin.
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer.
Yes.
Council President.
Yes.
Councilmember Zinner.
Yes.
Councilmember Robertson.
Aye.
Councilmember Shanegas.
Yes.
By roll call vote of 6-0 in the affirmative. Ordinance 1092 concerning amending City Code Chapter 67 Ethics is adopted on first reading. Council President, when would you like to have the public hearing?
At the next meeting on the 19th, sir? Does that work out?
Sounds good to me. We'll have the public hearing on ordinance 1092 at the December 19th City Council meeting at 7 o'clock, preceding the council meeting. Thank you very much, council. We're going to go to item 14 on this evening's agenda, which is old business. We have no old business to discuss. Item 15, new business. We have a few items. Budget amendment is going to be item A, and we are going to go to the chair of the City Council Finance Committee, Councilmember Robertson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, fellow council members, I move to approve Budget Amendment 2023-08.
Second.
Council, I have a motion by Councilmember Robertson, second by Councilmember Martin. Questions or comments? Councilmember Robertson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Fellow council members, you may recall last month we did a budget transfer giving a temporary loan from Fund 1 to Fund 9. And what this budget amendment does is essentially reverse that transfer while realigning some of the personnel expenses back under Fund 1 instead of Fund 9. And I think that the the letter that we received kind of speaks to that a little more clearly. It's basically personnel that were going to be assigned to one project within Fund 1 that has been delayed. So we're taking within Fund 9 from Fund 1. So we're taking the personnel expenses and transferring them back to Fund 1 instead of Fund 9, and with that, reversing that temporary loan.
Thank you very much, Councilmember
Clear as
Robertson.
mud.
What's that?
Clear as mud.
Yeah, and I was just looking at how many account numbers were here for a second.
Yeah, thanks.
We'll come up with a plan. Don't worry about it. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Councilmember Robertson. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we have like 20 account numbers here. You just want to give totals?
Whatever you want me to do. I serve at the pleasure of the mayor. I don't.
I think if he gives the totals and we publish the numbers, we're safe.
You're called chair of the committee. I mean, what do you want to do?
Bottom line is fine with me. I mean, it's 0 and 0. We're realigning costs in Fund 1 and Fund 9. So
fair enough. You want to give the amount just for the record?
Sure. So $0 in Fund 1 and $0 in Fund 9.
Mr. Doherty, would you like to capture anything else for the record?
For the record, it should also be noted that we had to make some adjustments to the revenues beyond the transfer. The real property taxes, the budget for them has gone up by $276,000, and we reduced, pardon me, the anticipated capital cost recovery fees in Fund 9 by about the same $276,000 in total. And the purpose of that was because the actual cost of the total personnel cost was more than would be covered by the reversal of the temporary funding. but I think it's important that goes on the record as well, sir.
Thank you, that's good. Will suffice. Thank you, Councilman Robertson. Guess we got a vote on this now, right? Any further questions or comments? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Budget Amendment 2023-08 is confirmed by council, 6-0 in the affirmative. Okay, we're going to go to item, thank you, Mr. Horty.
Yes, sir.
We're going to go to item B, is special events. And we're going to start with the farmer's market.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council. Before you this evening, as commented on by Ms. Donna Mandel, is the Havre Grace Farmers Market Winter Market, sponsored by the Community Projects of Havre Grace, Inc. through the Farmers Market. The setup will be, as stated on the event application, primarily be the first and third Saturdays, January through April. The setup will be at 8:30. The ending time will be at 11:30. The market will operate from 9 to 11. It will operate at Congress Avenue in front of the Star Center on the North Adams Street side so that they can take advantage of the electrical services there. Within the packet, you'll see the map of the location and also the costing sheet from both PD and DPW. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gamatoria. Council, I have a motion to approve the Havre Grace Farmers Market Winter Market. Motion by the Council President, second by Councilmember Zinner. Questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Havre Grace Farmers Market Winter Market for the first and third Saturdays from January to April 2023 from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. at Congress Avenue from the Star Center is approved and carries 6-0 in the affirmative. Mr. Gamatoria.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, the second application is for the Havre Grace Youth Sailing Program Summer Camp. Again, this was commented by Mr. Rick Wall, who was here this evening. They are a 501c3. They'll be operating out of the community tent or community pavilion at Frank Hutchins Park. It'll begin actual operations on the 19th, and they'll end the 19th of June and end the 11th of August. They will set up the day before on the 17th of June, and the breakdown primarily will be on the 12th of August. It operates from 8 till 4, Monday through Friday. The expectation is about 230 youth. As Mr. Wall stated, the program will have a number of different new sailing opportunities for some youth. So we're looking forward to it this year. At the end of the packet, you'll see the costing sheets, primarily with DPW, with parking, containers, requirements, and also bathroom cleanup. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Gamatoria. Council have a motion to approve the Havre Grace Youth Sailing Program.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Martin, second by Councilman Robertson. Questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Havre Grace Youth Sailing Program Summer Camp, June 19th to August 11th, 2023 at Hutchins Park is approved, 6-0 in affirmative. Thank you very much, Council. All right, sail away.
Sailing.
Thanks, Bill. Now that's stuck in my head.
Come sail away, come sail away, come sail away with. Okay, item 3, Mr. Gamatoria.
The last event application before you this evening is the Refuel for School. It is sponsored by the Havre Grace Youth Commission. The on-site contact person will be Tracy Robertson, who spoke about the program and its the opportunities it brings to youth. The festival will it'll set up on the 26th of August at 12 p.m. The event starts at 3. ends at 6 and will break down at 8. It'll be at Concord Point Park. There's a anticipated attendance of about 500. There will be food service there that will be offered for food for sale. The event map is very nicely done on next to the last page of the packet, and then the costing sheet is the last page. And that's the last event application, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Council, I have a motion to approve refuel for school.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Robertson, second by Councilmember Shenegis. Questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Refuel for school, August 26, 2023, from 3 o'clock to 6 p.m. at Concord Point Park, is approved by the council, 6-0 in the affirmative. Thank you, council, and thank you, Mr. Gamatoria. We're going to go to item 16, Director's Report, and we're going to start with Director of Administration.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, just two brief items. One, you heard Mr. Smith, former council member Smith, this evening, speak about a letter that BGE sent out to the downtown merchants and a number of people throughout the city. I know I live up in the 700 block of Union and South Union, and we got a letter as well. And the letter was letting the residents know that BGE would be performing a service from about 6 hours on December the 20th. And it's going to be shutting down the power in these areas. So I got my letter on Thursday or Friday. I reached out to our contact person through government affairs with BGE, and we're working to get this date pushed further back or further forward, hoping that it'll be the end of January, February. That's typically when the merchants downtown sort of have a slow time anyway. So this is would be very disruptive if this occurs during the week before Christmas. We'll do everything in our power to make sure that doesn't happen. However, we are at the mercy of Baltimore Gas and Electric, as we were with the gas line replacement. So we'll do. We're working. Our contact seemed very open to pushing it back. So I think we'll be successful in not having that occur on the 20th. And then my only other comment was, Mayor, I know you're aware, and Council, you've seen over the last few years the good work that our legislative liaison, Adam Rachinski, has been doing. He's working now to set up, getting us prepared for the upcoming legislative session. I do want to compliment Adam publicly on Resolution 2022-31 for his input on that and for his continued support with the council and the administration with these legislative items. He keeps our finger on the pulse, and I know he's a good asset, and even to the city attorney with his follow-up and the detail of all these legislative matters. So thank you to Adam for that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gamatoria, for the update. We're going to go to the Director of Planning for the City of Havre de Grace, Mr. Tim Boissier. Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. We have our permit totals for November. There were no new construction and 8 renovation and addition permits. Things tend to slow down this time of year, and just generally construction's been slow. Next time we meet, I should have totals for the whole year so we could compare those to the years past and look at how things have changed or moved since COVID and prior to that. So there should be some interesting things coming soon. And for projects that have already been approved, those are beginning to move forward. We're receiving landscaping plans and surety agreements and that sort of thing. So items that some of these bigger projects that were already approved are still moving forward. And we do have permits have a time that they lapse. So if these larger developments are recording things and they're not moving forward, those permits would lapse. So it looks like that they are moving forward, planning on over the next couple of years continuing to continue to build. As everyone probably knows, in the last election, Maryland voted to decriminalize cannabis. With that will probably come a way that people can get cannabis, so there'll probably be dispensaries, recreational dispensaries. We're still waiting for information on that, but we've begun our initial work looking on locally where those should be cited, what the different rules are, the difference between dispensaries and grow facilities and production. There's a lot of stuff that's out there, and the state law is going to allow local governments to regulate from a zoning and land use standpoint where those things will be located. So we're beginning our research on that. Just wanted everyone to know that we're doing our due diligence. And last week we had an interesting meeting with Department of Natural Resources. They're going around and speaking to everybody about floodplains and how to keep flood insurance costs low. They potentially identified an area of about 18 or 20 houses where there could be some simple implementation that we could possibly put in place to bring down insurance there, and maybe another location where it should be recognized that there's some risk issues, which then we would find some way to mitigate and then also bring costs down there. So it was a pretty interesting meeting, pretty informative, and we're working to get everybody's insurance as low as they could be in those low-lying areas. That's it from planning.
Thank you very much, Tim. Appreciate the update. Thank you. Good evening, Ms. Bridget Johnson, Director of Economic Development and Tourism.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and citizens at home. A couple of updates. One, we have a new business opening, hopefully the second week of December. They are taking a vacant spot on Revolution Street. It was 811 Revolution Street, which used to be the Rita's Ice Cream. That building has been vacant for a long time. We've been working with this business for the last 4 or 5 months, along with the Department of Planning. They received their approval through the Health Department today, so the only thing left is to get their use and occupancy from the City of Havre de Grace. We don't foresee any problems. It will be a drink cafe, non-alcoholic beverages, coffee, tea, health drinks, shakes, and smoothies. So we will plan a ribbon cutting for them in the very near future, but I am really happy that they're here and utilizing a vacant property. The Director of Administration beat me to congratulating and recognizing Adam tonight, as well, as we have been working with Adam on some of the legislation, or at least giving our opinion through EDAB and economic development of what will be going to the delegation this year. And Adam has asked, and we will certainly support him in Annapolis when he needs any of us to go down and testify on behalf of anything that the council would like to move forward. So he is indeed doing a great job in that role. I have a lot of thanks to give tonight, and one is to the volunteers for the tourism office, as well as those that volunteer for a lot of our events. The Tourism Advisory Board is not meeting in December. We will celebrate and have a holiday celebration party with them, but this entire year has stepped up for every event. Our visitor center is open 7 days a week. It is basically managed or operated with our tourism manager and help of volunteers. So we just want them to enjoy the month of December, and we want to honor and show how much we appreciate them. So they don't have to attend a meeting. And the Economic Development Advisory Board is not so lucky. We will be meeting on December 21st here in Council Chambers from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. We will also have a holiday celebration party, but during that time, we will be reviewing the Havre de Grace story maps and comprehensive plan. In November, we reviewed the first 3 story maps, which envision Havre de Grace, celebrate our environment, and growth, development, and housing. December, we will review the remaining 4, which is economic development, history and cultural tourism, multimodal transportation, and water resource element. As promised and asked by our Director of Planning, we will offer feedback to all of these 7 different categories, and I'm sure and eventually we'll send a letter to Mayor and Council with our feedback and recommendations. We will talk about this a lot publicly. We encourage the public to attend all of our meetings. They're open to the public. They're here in Council Chambers. We would like more participation Along with those 7-story maps and in working with the Department of Planning, it's all for the betterment of this comprehensive plan that process that they're trying to go through. So we look forward to continue working with them. For tourism, I hope everyone enjoyed the Christmas parade and First Fridays. I know the mayor will talk about it, and he does a great job with it, but again, just recognizing the help and the volunteers that it took to pull that event off. Last year, 25 floats was in the Christmas parade, and this year it doubled to 50, and we basically just had to cut it off at some point, or you would have been in a parade for 3 or 4 hours. But it was just a lot of behind the scenes legwork, and we did as much as we could. Even Facebook Live, the parade and everyone on stage. So again, hats off to that group and the long hours that they put in to pull that event off. Last week, we also launched the new homepage for Explore Havre de Grace. I say the homepage because there are a lot of pages on that website that we have not gotten to yet, but we at least wanted to launch the homepage and the tourism blog. So there's more to come. We will not finish this project probably until February. There's just so much information, so many links to other organizations and events and businesses, but we are slowly going through the process of bringing that website up to date, as well as all of our social media platforms. The additions to come very soon will include Star Center, Opera House, the Tide Trolley, the marinas, the parks and trails, the living shoreline, and all other projects going on in the city. We do not want the citizens to forget, and I would like to encourage them again to go to explorehavredegrace.com. Our Facebook and Instagram page carries the same name because we have a lot of events in December, to include the next 2 Fridays, December 9th and 16th, more festivities. And there's just a host of things going on for kids and families and arts and crafts that I could not list just sitting here. So please, explorehavredegrace.com. All of that information is on our website. Last but not least, we will soon post a job description on the city website, hopefully next week, for a part-time Main Street manager / tourism coordinator. Anyone listening, please review that job description. And it is a part-time job, dual hats, but all of that will be explained in the position. And we look forward to having that person on board in early January. And that is it, if there are no questions, or if there are questions.
Council, any questions for Ms. Johnson? Thank you for the thorough update. We appreciate it, Ms. Johnson. A lot of good stuff going on. Thank you.
Yep.
Good evening, Mr. Horty, Director of Finance. How goes it?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council, citizens. First, let me thank the council for approving the budget amendment. It is a bit of house cleaning more than anything, and because of our best laid plans not quite coming to fruition as much as we want, we share some of the frustration that the citizens expressed on how quickly we're moving forward and the like. We get it, we understand it, and we're keeping our eye on all the deadlines to make sure that we don't have to give any of it back. That's just not going to happen. All right, so for the current status of the major funds, the general fund is sitting at a little over $6.75 million. It's running about $380,000 ahead of budget anticipation. I might note that's before the budget amendment tonight. Revenues are at $16.1 million, including the beginning of the year, and that exceeded the budget by about $400,000. So that's the primary cause, is the higher than expected revenue so far year to date. Expenses are at about $9.3 million, and they're a whopping $25,000 over budget right now. So that's where we're sitting spending wise in Fund 1. The Water Sewer Fund 9 is sitting at $830,000. It is below the budget by about $650,000. The primary reason for that will be on the revenue side, which is about $750,000 below budget at $6.1 million. And a lot of that has to do with the timing and the delays in ARPA-funded projects and the like, as well as with some of the, as Tim noted earlier, kind of the slowdown in construction. The budget didn't quite anticipate it getting this slow this fast. But it is something that the market drives, so we're hopeful that that will rebound quite a bit. Expenses are sitting at just under $5.3 million for Fund 9, and they're actually below budget by about $100,000. Again, most of which is due to delays in capital spending and the like. The Marina Fund is sitting at just over $1 million. It's ahead of schedule by about $127,000. Revenues are about $55,000 ahead of schedule at $1.3 million. And a lot of that is greater than anticipated fuel sales moving a little quicker. I guess we've had a mild fall, and so people are still enjoying their boats, which is good news. Expenses are below budget by about $73,000, and again, most of that is due to the timing of capital projects. So things they're running pretty much as we would expect, with a few hiccups in the capital project line, and that's usually the most volatile line items, because things like the supply chain issues that you hear and all the other stuff, it really impacts capital projects more than your maintenance and your personnel and the like. So there's nothing there that causes any great undue concern from finance's position. And that's my report for this evening, sir. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Mr. Horty. Council questions? Councilmember Zinner.
Question about some of the newer projects that are going on in town, like the condominiums at Bully Rock, and then the Blenheim Apartments. Have we received connection fees for any of those units yet, or are we still waiting on them?
The answer to both questions is yes. We have received some, and we are still waiting on
Okay,
quite a
okay,
few
all right.
of those.
I just want to see where the,
But, yeah.
the dollars are out there somewhere.
Blenheim Roman has been one of the more active, but a lot of those permits were applied for and allowed to be paid after the fact, because it was kind of the design of the workplace. They needed to get some federal funding and the like.
Okay.
So they needed the approval. So to help the developers be able to move forward so we don't get caught in a catch-22, we allowed them to get permits with a deadline to get them paid, and they met the deadline. So they're all back on board.
Okay, and then the condos?
It's pretty much it. Not a whole lot yet from the condos yet, but they're still in the design stage. I don't think, Tim, you can answer, or EJ, if they've even submitted their final building plans for review.
They have people moving into two of the buildings, so.
Those I think were done, may have been as early as last year when they got started.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I can comment further on that. So the two that are occupied at this point, we've received those connection fees some time ago. The other one in Parcel N, the one that they just got the elevator shaft up on, they applied for the permits, and we got those about 2 weeks ago. That was the 26th that we got to raise that number from 6 up to 32, because we were holding at 6 for a long time, and we're waiting for those that apartment or that condo building to come in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Zinner. Any other question for Mr. Horty? Thank you, George. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Good evening, Mr. Melizer, Director of DPW.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council President, council members, audience here and at home. There's a lot going on since my last report. I'll try to keep it brief. Water Street dual boat launch. I got a great tour of that today. It's 80% placed. Contractors gave me a brief walkthrough, so they're awaiting some of the rain to come on before they place the final portions. If you see rushing water going across the street over the past few weeks, and city workers, they're flushing hydrants across the city, so they'll continue to do that throughout December. If you see new fresh water rushing across the streets and we're not connected to the hydrants, that may be a water main break, please report that, not online, but to the Department of Public Works at 410-939-1800. As the temperatures drop, this happens this time of year, so please report instances like this past weekend. We had a water main break this Friday. Some of our personnel worked for over 18 hours trying to chase some of the leaks across the city, and observant residents did a great job reporting those. So I'd like to give a shout out to some of my personnel, David Morrell, especially for staying late and getting the job done. Speaking of leak detection, I'd like to thank the citywide leak detection experts for finding several leaks throughout the city that we will prioritize in kind. On a separate note, we had a great tour, the Water Sewer Commission from Mr. Ken Montgomery and Roger Osborne, both the water treatment plant and wastewater treatment plant with Councilmember Martin and some of the members that aren't here today. So they did an excellent job, very thorough, so I'd like to give a nice shout out to them. I'd like to thank Councilmember Curtis Beulah, who came by the DPW shop and gave us all breakfast and donuts as a great sign, token of appreciation to the DPW team that helped with the Sergeant Hilton Memorial. Again, I just appreciate it. We will continue with ongoing maintenance for that beautiful monument. Last but not least, just another shout out to the DPW team. The decorations look awesome, downtown Holly Jolly Parade, and we did face some concerns with the vandalism at Tidings Park, but volunteers Fred Wills and Jay McSpadden were quick to save the day and fix the tree back up. So we do appreciate the spirit of volunteerism in the city. Many hands make light work. So thank you. I'll open up for any questions.
Any questions, Council, for EJ? EJ, or Mr. Malizer, wish to also comment on what a heck of a job your crew did on Friday night with the water break, main break on Erie Street. That was an all-nighter. I mean, those guys were at it before midnight, and they didn't finish up till the next afternoon. And if you guys remember what the weather was like, it was a cold, rainy night, and those guys are out it. So, and even transcended shifts. I know we sent a new shift in to work on. That's how long it took. So 6
different personnel. And it was raining, so they kept moving the tent down the breaks as the breaks kept going. So,
well, like I said, it's those guys sometimes are young unsung heroes. I mean, a lot of people, you know, rightly so, but people aren't happy when their water's not working, and sometimes we don't always put, you know, A, B, and C together to realize what it takes to get it back on. So, like I say, you know, hats off to your crew.
Certainly.
Councilmember Martin.
I'd also like to thank EJ, Mr. Milzer, on all his work and the members of his staff to get this. We have an Eagle applicant that is working with the city that wants to put in a sensory board, and the DPW team is working to make that happen. So we will have a new Eagle, but a new Eagle project as well. So I want to thank you for your efforts on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Councilmember Martin. Thank you.
Then we're going to go to Captain Alton. How's the police department?
Things are good, sir. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'll be really brief, just to say that happy holiday greetings to everyone. Obviously, the season is upon us and certainly an opportunity for cheer and joy, but at the same point in time, words of caution. I recently just read an article, and I just jotted some quick notes, or I apologize, I said article. It's a report by the FBI. This is also the same time of year where certainly members of the criminal community like to try to take advantage of us. And the top 3 listed scams out there, the number 3, go figure, is online shopping. And so certainly I know that this is the time of year when everybody is wanting to spend money via online on gifts and so forth, but at the same time also click cautiously, making sure that whatever it is that you are purchasing is certainly legit and you're not giving your information away to somebody that will wrongfully use it. Thank you, and that's my report.
Thank you, Captain. Appreciate it. Thanks for filling in for the chief tonight. It's good to see you back at the council meeting. We're going to go to business from the mayor's office. A couple updates. As everyone knows, the Independence Day Commission needs to raise some hefty coin every year to run the parade. They have a heavy lift. Usually the parade costs in the ballpark around $50,000 on average to pay for all the events and all the entrants that go into the parade. So the commission fundraises as often as they can. Well, several years ago, they started a Christmas tree Jubilee event fundraiser, and they had it this past Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. It was at the American Legion, and we appreciate the American Legion letting us use their space. And there was 48 trees donated, and a lot of folks walked through the tree Jubilee, and those 48 trees that were donated raised over $7,000, which is, it's nice to go towards that final number that they have to come up with every year to hold that annual tradition in our city. So hats off to each member of the Independence Day Commission for all their work. And a deep thank you from myself as well for all the private individuals and businesses in our community who found it within their hearts to donate a Christmas tree, decorated with a theme for the benefit of our Independence Day Parade. So that is the community coming together. That's what we love to see. Thank you. Speaking of Christmas spirit, there is our annual house decorating contest, which happens every Christmas time. Probably makes more sense than have it in April. But so if you want to decorate your house and you want your house to be considered for its creativity, loveliness, tackiness, cheesiness, or just downright beauty, please contact Miss Lori O at or Lori Orzowitz. Her email address is lorio@havredegracemd.com, or just call the Havre Grace Visitor Center at 939-2100. And all you have to do is just put your name and your address on the list, and magically, sometime between December 14th, 15th, and 16th, there'll be several cars that drive by full of judges, and they will all be ranking your house on a very, very well thought out rubric. And then we will announce the winners at the next council meeting on December 19th. So there's always a lot of people that participate. There's different categories to win. So if you like to decorate your house and you wouldn't mind just throwing your name in the hat, call the Havre Grace Visitor Center, 939-2100, and all you got to do is give your name and address.
Clark Griswold.
The Clark Griswold. Yeah, there are some Clark Griswold houses out there. It's a lot of fun. The Holly Jolly First Friday Parade and tree lighting was this past Friday, and to say it was a record crowd is an understatement. It was a lot of folks there, and I know they weren't all from Havre de Grace. So it's very nice to see so many people from all around Hartford County, from the region, from Cecil County. I met some folks from Delaware. I met some co-workers of mine who live in Rise and Sun that popped by. But just to give you an idea, I don't know how many people were there, but it was pretty thick, all the way from the American Legion water plant all the way down to La Cachina, the parade route. But Mrs. Martin and I had a huge shopping bag of 1,000 individually wrapped jingle bell necklaces. 1,000 individually wrapped necklaces, and Mrs. Martin didn't think we would be able to give them all out between the start and the finish. We ran out of them before we got to the wine bar. And we weren't throwing them like this. We were literally tossing each one to kids. So I know there was over 1,000 kids. So when you think about what we always talk about, if kids like to live, if kids like being raised in a town, then everything else will take care of itself. And that includes businesses and everything else. So it's like we focus on quality of life, we focus on our families, we focus on kids, and then everything else comes together. And so the parade was great, and as Ms. Johnson said, you know, there is a whole bunch of people that worked hard to make that possible. You know, Lori at the tourism, Lindsey Jones, there's a lot of people, a lot of the volunteers had a hand in it. Like I said, it was I got stopped there saying names because I'm going to forget somebody. Let me just say a lot of people helped. So, like I said, it was great. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. And if you happen to live in Bully Rock, I got news for you. The Bully Rock Water Tower is all back online. All the repairs are completed. It's got fresh coat of paint and the Discovery of Maryland and Havre Grace logo, which is beautiful. And so, got your tower all taken care of. And one last final thing, I want to congratulate our own Havre Grace native, Mr. Jacob Bennett. Jacob Bennett ran for council to represent us in District F. He ran against Curtis Beulah, And when all the votes were counted and done for, he just edged out Mr. Beulah by 92 votes. I wish to thank Curtis Beulah for 8 years of service to the citizens of District F for his time and efforts on the council. We wish him luck. And Mr. Bennett was sworn in today on the county council, and we wish him luck as well. And we look forward to working with Mr. Bennett. And like I said, it's good that the democratic process keeps playing out, and thank everybody that came out to vote. And with that said, I'm going to stop the comments there. We're going to head to cut business from the council, and we're going to start with Councilmember Robertson.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, fellow council members, city staff, ladies and gentlemen here and at home. Just a couple things. First of all, no Budget and Finance Committee meeting this month. Everybody say, "Aw." And also no Youth Commission meeting, whereas Ms. Johnson keeps trying to add things for everybody to come to. I'm trying to take them away around the holidays. Also, I want to give a shout out to the whole tourism department, the volunteers, DPW, the police, and a special thanks to Jay Dupree and Jeff Thompson, and of course L'Oreal for putting that together. I know Friday was a huge task, a huge undertaking, and I think it really turned out well. The weather helped. It was just cold enough to feel like Christmas time, but not too cold to keep people away. And hopefully that, turned into sales over at the Christmas tree Jubilee at the Legion, which I think it did. So anyway, thank you all. I hope the citizens stay safe and happy. And, Cap Malton, a good way to avoid online scams when you're shopping is to hit your downtown merchants. So just remember that those folks exist. Right here in town, we were able to get all of our Christmas shopping done in a matter of one day. So just keep that in mind. Anyway, stay healthy, stay safe, stay happy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Robertson. Good evening, Councilmember Shenagas.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, admin, staff, members in the audience and at home. I just want to say thank you so much to everyone involved that allowed for our city to have a wonderful, joyful, holly jolly First Friday and the events that led through the weekend. It's great to see our communities work together, our businesses, our volunteers, our different nonprofits. It's lovely to know that you're in a town where people want to come and stay and visit and be a part of the joy of the season, a part of the joy of people just interacting with their friends and families. So thank you everyone involved, and I look forward to seeing you all throughout the season and hope that we have an opportunity to have some more good times on the first Fridays, the 9th and the 16th, I believe. And thank you so much, everyone. Back to you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councilman Shenagas. Good evening, Councilmember Martin.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council President, Council, staff, and those still in the audience and those at home. First, I want to congratulate Bob Casserly and all the new county council members. We attended, many members of the city council and some of the admin staff were there for the inauguration today at the community college. It was nice to see. Our high school was represented very, very well there, and they did a great job performing the different groups that were there. Other schools were there, but I guess the Pride and Havre Grace, they did a great job, and it was nice to have them there. We want to congratulate, as you said, Jacob Bennett. We look forward to working with him on projects that impact District F, but also Havre Grace. On another note, for your schedule, January 4th, MML legislative meetings begin down in Annapolis. The one for your calendar, though, is January 11th. It's a legislative reception at the Calvert House in Annapolis. So if you would put it on your schedule, January 11th down at the Calvert House. It's around 6 o'clock. I'll inform you. But it's a great time. We have a lot of new legislators down there. Great time for Havre Grace to represent itself down there and introduce ourselves to the new members, as well as to address our concerns to them on a personal basis. With that, I want to thank everybody for all the efforts they did on the Holly Jolly as well. And again, Havre Grace is a great place to live.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Martin, and good evening, Councilmember Boyer.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, everyone, for sticking with us still. Kudos to DPW. I mean, we have an incredible group of people who our community absolutely relies upon to be out there and to fix the problems. And the one thing I will say is I've read and heard from a number of people how impressed they were at the dedication and perseverance that those gentlemen portrayed for that day. I mean, I think a couple of people were wondering, like, should I take breakfast out to them? What should I do? So I know that there's a large amount of people who are very thankful for all of their work, and if you could please, pass that along to them. Holly Jolly, First Fridays, just like everybody else said, it was amazing, and just a different perspective. We call it Holly Jolly First Friday, but it's true. There's not one grumpy person there. It is truly a jolly experience. I saw a couple of videos from people posting that people were literally dancing in the street. It was iconic. It's just one of those things that you just love about Havre Grace, and our town looked amazing. And I agree with you. I don't think we should allow the parade to go any longer because it's so cold outside and everybody really just wants Santa Claus. Which brings me to Santa Claus, who's probably just at the most amazing part of it, and we are so lucky to have such a tight relationship with Santa Claus in this city. So thank you very much, Santa Claus, for everything that you do. And I just want to share, I want to share two things. First, I have a concern, and hopefully somebody from the Baltimore Sun is watching. And hopefully you're watching, you're thinking, oh, I should write something down about Havre Grace. And my comment is, we need you to pay attention. We need you to pay attention to what's going on in Harford County, what's going on in Havre Grace, and we need you to put it in the paper. We have a lack of a paper, which makes it a lack of information being processed to people. And there are things that are happening in our community. For example, Jacob Bennett not being sworn in with the rest of the group. That was not brought out and should have been brought out in the community a couple of weeks ago, but it wasn't. And I think the contributing factor to all of this, why nobody really knew about it and why everybody is trying carefully not to talk about it, is because we do not have an active paper. We do not have an active editorial board in this community, and that is a problem. We rely on them. They're called the Fourth Estate for a reason. And we need you, Baltimore Sun. If you're going to be the paper, if you're going to be the aegis in our community, we need you to show up, and we need you to ask questions and get involved. If not, we need somebody else within this community to step forward and take that place, because without them, we have a problem. Another issue I want to bring up, 2 weeks ago, I sent a card to my nephew for his birthday, and put a gift card in there, taped it up, put it in the mailbox at the post office here, and a week later I get an email from my nephew saying, thank you, Aunt Casey, for this wonderful card. But somebody got into it, and they took the gift card out of it. And we went to the post office, and we made a report of it, but I just wanted to make you aware of it. So, I know a lot of people, I send a lot of gift cards in the mail to people who are my friends and family around the United States, but I just want to put it out there to everybody. Just be a little bit careful about how you're doing things, because again, criminals look for an opportunity, and places where we thought were safe are no longer safe. So with that, on that negative note, I'm sorry, but it was a holly jolly First Friday. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Boyer. Good evening, Councilmember Zinner.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Residents, there's not too much more I can say about Holly Jolly First Friday, except it was a huge success, and it was very gratifying to see so many people come out, and it was also interesting being on the sort of grandstand with my fellow council members and the mayor and Santa Claus. But to look down the street and you couldn't see a space in the street, it was so crowded. I mean, it was just throngs of people, and only time I've seen that is maybe in New York. But at any rate, it was really gratifying to see. So that said, I believe that everyone really enjoyed themselves, and well, they should have. The Tree Jubilee was a great success with the 48 trees and the money raised. So I think this is a good time to talk about the fact that it is a small commission that takes care of these tasks. And they work extremely hard, especially close to an event. So with Holly Jolly Christmas, they don't start on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. They start weeks in advance. So if you are so inclined and you enjoyed yourself and you enjoyed the 4th of July parade, maybe you would like to volunteer for this commission. If you feel that's not for you, then possibly you would like to volunteer to help with the 4th of July parade, because that also takes a lot of hands and a lot of organization. The commission work can be parceled out in sizable chunks so that one person isn't doing all the work, but right now we have 5 people doing all the work, and it would certainly be helpful for the community, I think, also to see what goes on behind the scenes, to bring all of this joy and celebration to the community. So if you would consider that, please get in touch with me, and I'll make sure I can get you an application for either the commission work or for working on the 4th of July. It's not an all-day thing. It's parceled out in hourly increments, so you would still have time with your family and time to enjoy the parade. So that said, that's my sales talk for volunteers for the parade and the Holly Jolly Christmas, and then other things that we do in the course of the year to raise money for such a great celebration on the 4th of July. The Historic Preservation Commission is scheduled for next week, 12/13. The Arts Commission remains on hiatus. Independence Day Commission would normally be meeting on 12/26, but I'll have to check with the chair to find out if we're going to maintain that date or we'll just kind of skip December and take a breather and enjoy the rest of the holiday. So that said, good night, and I hope you all, this is our first meeting since Thanksgiving. I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving and are looking forward to the holidays. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Zinner. Thank you for your comments. Council President, good evening.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you so much. I too had a wonderful time down at Holly Jolly First Fridays. I had to duck out a little bit early because I had another engagement. Everybody saw me in a tuxedo. So that's the engagement I had to rush out for that. But I'd like to really thank EJ and Dave both for helping the Scout for My Troop work on this project. I know that David mentioned before about the sensory board, and that's why I introduced him to Dave and EJ. You guys have been phenomenal, and Kai's definitely going to get his Eagle Scout project completed and get another Eagle for our troop. And we actually have several projects here in town that I've been pushing up there as well, so we're going to get some stuff done. I'd like to plug the Havre Grace online gift card, and it says here the Havre Grace digital gift card has many of your favorite retailers, restaurants, services, and entertainment in one place. Use this gift card at all participating locations in the city. There is truly something for everyone, and you can get that online. You can get that down at the Visitor Center, correct? All right, you can get that down at the Visitor Center. It's good for a ton of businesses downtown, so make sure you get that, and it helps support our organizations. So been in talks and working on something that people complained about since the parking lot went in, and Steve's been working hard on this diligently, but apparently the project manager for the school system that built the parking lot, built the school, they've closed and they've accepted a bid to put lights on the parking lot back here and to also finish the sidewalks and put some ramps in, some ADA accessible ramps. which I've complained about since they put that parking lot in. So they're going to be closing off Warren Street there on the end, and they're going to complete it all the way through and have some ADA accessible ramps. So we're going to figure that out and get it all done. But the bid has to go before the school board on the 15th. I'm sorry, on the 5th of next month. And speaking to Councilwoman Boyer, she's absolutely right. Since the record left, we don't have a voice. You know, they didn't, I don't even think at our election they even put a picture in the paper, did they? They never showed up. I sent them a picture. They did an editorial cartoon, which I wasn't even in. You notice that? It was you two and Bill. But they didn't even mention the election. They don't mention anything about what's going on in Havre Grace. And if you want something in Havre Grace, you know, post it in there. We have to send it. So everything that we do is published ahead of time. So all these ordinances and stuff like that, the headers are listed there. And you can go right to the Havre Grace webpage, havregracemd.com, and to the government page, click on government, click on agenda, and it brings it all up. It tells you what's going on. And you can pick up the phone, and you can or email one of your council members, and you can get the information from them. Going on Facebook is one of the worst places you can get information, because you get people who are just misinformed or ill-informed or just don't understand the subject matter, and we can't answer every question. And you get the dog pile, so you'll get like one or two people asking a question about the water downtown, and then or the safety of the water, or this or that, and then, you know, before you know it, you've got 120 comments, everybody dogpiling on there about, you know, their dog has shingles or something, I don't know. But, you know, we're doing what we can. We've got great water. We've got some of the best water in the state, absolutely wonderful, and people complain about that all the time, or they complain about the black sludge, which we can't control. We've tested for it. It's not coming from us. So we're doing what we can. The best thing you can do is pick up the phone, give us a call. Our numbers are on there. You can come by City Hall. You can call City Hall and look for Director of Administration or one of our directors, 410-939-1800. You could get our email addresses. I'm Jim R. at havregracemd.com. All of us, it's our first name, first letter of their last name, at havregracemd.com. If you got questions, just ask. So you can reach out to us anytime. There should never be a lack of information. If there's a lack of information, it's because you didn't ask. We're not going to chase you down and tell you that, hey, we're doing a presentation tonight on the revitalization. Okay, it's your duty to stay informed. So if you have questions, all you got to do is ask. And with that, Mr. Mayor, under the Open Meetings Act, General Provision Article 3-305, I make a motion to go into closed session upon adjournment of the open session on Monday, December 5th, 2022, to consider the following matter. Number 1, consideration of acquisition of real property for the public purpose. Number 2, consult with city attorney on pending litigation. This meeting will be closed under General Provisions, Article Section 3-305B3, to consider the acquisition of real property for a public purpose and matters directly related thereto, and to consult with staff, consultants, and other individuals about pending or potential litigation. The reason for closing the meeting is B3, deliberations for acquisitions of real property in confidential settings is in the city's and public's best interest and are permitted under the Open Meetings Act. And number B8, attorney-client communications are privileged and entitled to confidentiality. This city council will not resume open session after the closed session, and votes, if any, will be recorded in public at the council meeting on December 19th, 2022.
Second.
Council, I have a motion by the council president, second by Councilman Martin. It's a motion to move into closed session at the conclusion of this meeting. All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Motion to go into closed session at the conclusion of this meeting carries 6-0 in the affirmative. Thank you, Council President. Item 20, adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Martin, seconded by Council President Ringsacher. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. December 5th, 2022 meeting has adjourned. The time is now 9:53 p.m. Good night, everybody. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.